Hello, friends. I'm Jonathan Pishner with Apex Counseling. And today I want to share one of the ugly truths about why it's so hard to reduce stress and why so many people have difficulty with it. And once I say it, don't click off the video yet because there's still something important for the people who can't do the thing that's necessary. Because I'm just going to go ahead and come straight out with it. Most people have trouble reducing stress because they've organized their lives in such a way that there is no way to reduce their stress unless they do fewer things. Now, that's the moment where I'm saying don't click off the video yet because there's a couple of important things to take away from this. First off, how do we get here? Because it would seem like, oh, well, I should be able to like just do things like everybody else does and not have stress. Well, that's kind of true, but also kind of not, because one of the things that we somehow ended up with somewhere along the way was a set of beliefs that doing more is always better. And if you look at the way we train children today, look at what we have them do. We have them go to school. We have them exit school and do their homework. Oftentimes, we have them play at least one sport or one after school activity. And many kids have as many as two, three, four sports or other things, such that it's very nearly impossible to keep up with it. And we're doing this to 12-year-olds. So imagine what then those 12-year-olds think whenever they get to college or they become adults that they should be doing. They just continually replicate that and take on more and more and more and more and more. So somewhere along the way, we accidentally started training our children for this, who then replicate the cycle over and over and over again. The simple fact is most people are pursuing far too many things. And because of this, a whole market has sprung up around helping people do more. Instead of telling them to do less, we would just help them to do more. And we come up with cool things like the Pomodoro technique and the Eisenhower matrix and the 3-3-3 method. I mean, just Google productivity techniques and you'll get, I don't know how many thousands of results, and many of them quite well known. And in a way that unconsciously cosigns the idea that you should be doing more and it is correct to do more, and maybe even that it's healthy to do more. And so I am going to take all that away and say that almost all of us, myself included, I'm not above this, sadly, maybe one day, but most of us are doing too much, and it becomes impossible to reduce stress if you are doing too much. So there's basically two paths forward. And this is the important point, even for the people who can't do less yet. The two paths forward are figure out a way to actually do less, which is possible for many people. It feels impossible because we've been badly trained and we have to really work harder on the idea of doing less, but it is possible for many more people than usually think it is. And there are a few people who the ability to do less is simply not present right now. Just their life has been designed in such a way where they're kind of painted into a corner. If you're one of those people, the reason I wanted you to stick around is because most people who can't de-stress because they're doing too much also add an extra layer of stress because they think that they are somehow screwing up because they can't keep it together, because they can't be non-anxious or non-depressed while they're pursuing too many things. And the reason I wanted you to stick around is, if you get nothing else out of this video, I at least want you to know you are not the screw up. You simply accidentally designed things in a way where you couldn't de-stress, and now at some point you're going to have to figure out how to get out of that. But it doesn't mean you screwed up. And the reason that that's so important to know is because, like I said, we're trained at this from an early age. And it becomes very easy to believe that we should somehow be able to do everything and feel fine. And the simple fact is that most people today hit a critical mass where it is simply not possible to feel fine because they're physically incapable of doing more and also feeling okay. And I say physically incapable deliberately because what most people seem to forget is that a lot of times we'll talk about the brain body connection as if they're two separate things. The brain is part of the body. The brain is a physical entity. It has limited ability to process information, and it has limited ability to regulate emotions, and it has limited ability to take on continual tasks and to track multiple things and multiple deadlines and multiple schedules. And even as I'm saying it, like think of what a just any parent has to do even before we add a job on top of it. Most parents work. Being a parent is a full-time job, and then having a full-time job is a full-time job. And then if you want to have anything else on top of that, it's at least a part-time job on top of that. So where are we going with this? The the main thing that I want to put in people's heads that will not be actionable today, but with enough thought and enough attention and a willingness to admit that this is what's necessary, uh, over the course of time, people actually can start figuring out how to do less. It's really challenging because we are often encouraged to believe that people who do less are lazy or they are deficient or they're, I don't know, fill in whatever negative adjective you want to put on that. So it's almost hard for us to imagine the idea of doing less because that's not valued in our culture. So, what are some methods to doing less? Well, if you're super lucky, you can do less through writing a couple of checks because a lot of times, many of the tasks that take up some of our brain space, we can have other people do if we have sufficient funds to do that. So, some people watching this might be lucky enough to be in that boat. If you're not, hang on for a minute because we'll get some stuff for you too. But I mean, everything from cleaning the house that can be hired out. Doing the laundry can be hired out. All sorts of personal tasks. Uh, if you're in whether you're own your own business or if you're just an office worker, you can pay to have other people do certain things that can take stuff off your plate. You can pay to have people create your PowerPoint presentations, or you can pay to have people, fill in the blank. Almost all of it's there. But we also have to talk to the people who are in a position to be able to write a check and make some of their tasks go away. This is much harder. And really, what it ends up being is starting to really audit what are the things that you could reduce without harming anyone. Clearly, spending time with your children or taking care of them less, that's probably not the place to start because you're potentially harming somebody else. But uh, oftentimes, when I'm in the counseling room, I have to ask people, like, okay, are you at the level where we need to seriously talk about should you be changing jobs? Should you be selecting a different career? Like, is the thing you're doing for your work really properly designed for the brain that you have, or is this just guaranteed to create an amount of stress that's untenable? So we'll be looking. You might be looking at considering potential career changes, potential moves to different areas, and these are big life changes. So I don't say this lightly. I know I'm throwing this in a YouTube video, like, oh yeah, just do this. And that's, even though I've got to say it all briefly, that's not the internal attitude I have towards this. I realize I'm making a big statement. But the point of this is not to send you out and like have you make massive life changes. The point is to get you thinking about how can I do less? And maybe within a few days, weeks, or months, you'll start coming up with ideas of, oh, what if I did this? If I can even just get you coming up with ideas that are tenable, that would be a major win for this video. But I felt like I needed to talk about this today because we do not talk about this enough. The brain only has a finite capacity to continue adding tasks and adding things to track and not be stressed. And that is the end of the story. So most of us watching this video, and I say us because I still include myself, I still need to work on this, need to reduce our stress through doing fewer things and figuring out how to make that work. So I sincerely hope this concept is helpful to you. I regret that I can't give massive amounts of behaviors that will be helpful to you in doing this because it's so individualized, but hopefully hearing this will be helpful. If nothing else, at least know you're not screwing it up. Our world is not well designed for people to do the proper amount of things and be unstressed. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes today. I'm Jonathan Pishner with Apex Counseling, and I will see you next time.